Hello everyone and a very good evening to everyone present here. My name is Kamalakshi Satre and I am from Mumbai and I'm here to present for the symposium. My topic is communicating in teams, which was a major part of organizational behavior, the subject that I studied in my last course. So what is organizational behavior actually? It is the way people interact within groups. It is the human behavior that any organization would like having. Nowadays, we listen to people that even if how highly they are paid, but they would like to work in an organization who has ethics, who have a good working culture, and so on and so forth. So organization behavior creates and disseminates knowledge so that an organization effectively grows and one can lead an organization with this behavior. And it also increases effectiveness. Let's talk about communication, which is my topic. Information, when transmitted between two or more people and when understood, it's called communication. And it is essentially vital for organizations because no organization would exist without communication. And obviously, communication is a vehicle through which people clarify their expectations and they try to understand each other. And the example that I've given is the IBM search engine expertise. In this company, there is a portal where if anybody has a doubt or needs an expertise to help them, you can just go on this search engine and put your doubts in, and the expertise of that particular field will come up to help you. So this is a very good way of helping employees in an organization. Chester Bernard, the CEO of telecommunications, once quoted that an organization is born only when there are individuals who know how to communicate. So let's talk about the communication process, where a sender and a receiver encodes and decodes efficiently with one another. That is a communication process. So first of all, for a person to give a message, one will have to form a message. So the person, the sender, the source has to form a message, encode the message, and deliver it, transmit it through a medium to the sender, to the receiver. The receiver will then decode the message, form a particular feedback about it, and then give it back to the receiver. So something that we can see here is noise. What is noise? There is a possibility where in this noise the message can get lost, and it can get filtered and not reach the receiver properly. So this is a communication process that everyone basically follows. Next is verbal and non-verbal communication. It is very understandable that it is a critical part of communication. And verbal communication is planned, and we know what we are going to speak or deliver. And non-verbal communication is unplanned. It is more of the expressive and emotional side of a person. And organizational leaders nowadays are experimenting, where I've also included examples of verbal and non-verbal, that is face-to-face, telephones, text, internet, email, etc. Procter & Gamble uses Facebook for keeping in touch with their summer interns. They have a group on Facebook which keeps them connected to the summer interns. IBM has a portal called Beehive. It is a social media portal for the employees working in IBM. It had 65,000 employees on this portal. So this was a very interesting example that I thought helped the organization in communicating with each other. Communication barrier is my favorite topic of this presentation. If I say, Maza nao Kamalakshi ahe, you wouldn't understand what I'm trying to say. I meant my name is Kamalakshi. It was spoken in a dialect of my religion. So obviously language differences is a major communication barrier for a person. You wouldn't understand if a person is talking in another language with you. Second one is, in an organization, messages often get modified and filtered way up and down, due to which that can be a barrier to understand what the actual information is. Next is jargon. I basically follow this USA series, which is called Suits. So there was this thing where the IT guy, there was some problem, and the IT guy was telling the CEO about the problem. So the moment the CEO, the managing partner, came in, she said, "Okay, before you start, use the language that I will understand." So even if you are a managing partner or you are an IT person working in the same organization, it is extremely important that you use words that other people understand, no matter how well you communicate. Next is difficulty in stepping out of perspective. So Mr. Bernard Shaw quoted once that the biggest problem in communication is the illusion that we think that it is accomplished, but it actually is not. As senders, we think everyone is listening, and as well as a receiver, we think that everyone is listening, but as a sender, we assume that we are listening. So, are we listening? Okay. So next is cultural differences. Obviously, when you belong to another culture, it becomes a bit difficult to understand the other person, and overload of information. This I can relate to our lectures, where professors say that it's enough for the day, and we can continue in the next lecture. So if we don't do that, it can become a barrier where the other person wouldn't understand. Gender differences, not to hurt anyone's feelings here, but this was a really interesting topic. Men and women have similar kind of communication skills, but it's an irony that they subtly differ a little bit. Where men tend to dominate the conversation, and they use combative language most of the time, and they try to negotiate in a conversation, whereas women, they tend to build relationships when they talk, and they ask indirect requests. For example, a man would say that you should do this, but a woman, she will say, do you think you should do this? So that's the difference. Active listening. Nature gave us 2 ears and 1 tongue. And that is how it is very important for a person in a communication to listen actively. It helps to evaluate signals, helps in engaging people with one another. And an example is my own company where I worked for a month. It's Phoenix Consulting Group. And they taught me, they had direct sales. So they taught me that you should actively listen to the customer's needs. They have more to tell you than you have. And then you can help them out with the rest. Corporate grapevine. Now, what is a grapevine? Grapevine communication is an informal type of a communication where there are a lot of rumors that circulate in an organization. So when employees of Florida and California were asked if they liked grapevine or they didn't, so many of the people said that they were a part of corporate grapevine communication, but 1/3 of people approved that it is not credible at all, but they get caught into that. So what are the benefits of grapevine? Social interactiveness increases when you are a part of grapevine. It relieves anxiety, and it makes you feel that you are included in some kind of a group in the organization. Drives bond, and no formal information. This is a major thing in the benefit. When you do not receive any information from your manager or your supervisor, you tend to get into a grapevine. So the next is limitations. It is, as I said, people didn't prefer this type of communication. Instead of subsiding, it keeps on growing. There's no stop to a grapevine communication. It is distorted, and of course, it creates negativity for your own company. So therefore, it is not good. Why does communication interest me? Well, communication sets everyone apart. it is often mistaken as someone's personality. The way they talk, people guess that this person's personality is good. But what I personally believe is that should not happen. It should define your thoughts more than your personality. And it will obviously help me in building myself in teams in future, and it will align me with my goals, because I want to be an expert in my field in future. I want to become a digital marketer. So communication will help me do that, because marketing is all about communication. So to conclude, I would like to say that no matter how we find communication extremely easy to define, but the way we communicate can either make it complicated or easy. So communication should inspire, ignite enthusiasm, navigate course of action, sell benefit, paint a picture, invite participation, reinforce optimism, and encourage potential. Thank you so much. Anyone have any questions? I'm sorry.
Can you tell me more about the Grapevine? If no formal messages are being sent with Grapevine, what kinds of messages? Can you give an example?
My first working environment was back in Mumbai, and I learned a lot from that working environment. But one thing that I want to mention here is when I first entered into my office, when it was my first day, there was a group of people who came up to me and started telling me about this manager is not good, stay away from him. This manager is amazing. You can talk to him whenever you want. You can ask him for solutions whenever you want. So this was just a small example that Grapevine may not be necessarily official. It is a negative word of mouth which happens in an organization, which I think if you have any problem, just approach the person, talk to it about that person, and I think it should get solved. But if this is made a habit, it can worsen the situation of the organization and spoil it. That's what I believe.
Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Kamalakshi, I do have one problem with your presentation, and that is you mentioned relieving anxiety. And I think your presentation, in some instances, did just the opposite. Because if any professor is listening, they're anxious now because you're ready to replace them. Very well
Thank you
done.
so much.
And everyone is going that participates is going to be receiving a certificate. And I have this for you.
Thank you so much.
All right.
Thank you so
and thank
much.
you again.
Thank
Very
you.
well done.
Thank you.